there, and thanks for joining this keynote session about neurotechnology, the future of customer data. My name is Eltine van Veer, and I'm head of experience and insights at Braingineers. I own a master's degree in social psychology. I'm also a registered digital marketeer, insights professional of the year 2018 here in the Netherlands, and I'm member of the Dutch Marketing Insights Research and Analytics Committee. So, let me start with telling you a story which I think covers the issue I want to address with customer data. It's a story about Sony. So back in the 80s, they launched a new product, the yellow Sony Walkman. And it isn't really clear whether this actually happened or it's a myth, but it illustrates an important aspect of customer behavior. It shows what researchers and psychologists have seen numerous times. So Sony organized a feedback session with their target group, which were young, sporty people, to find out what they thought of a bright yellow Sony Walkman. And they conducted interviews in which they would ask the target group's opinion about the yellow Sony Walkman. And the feedback they received about this new product was great. It was sportier, it was a bright yellow color made it stand out from the others because all the standard models that were only coming in black. So people were very positive about it. And at one point they were asked whether they would buy this yellow version of the Sony Walkman, and they all responded with, yes, I would. As a thank you for this feedback session for the participants, these participants were offered a free Walkman on their way out, which they could pick up from the table next to the exit. And on the table, there were two versions of the Sony Walkman. So the new yellow Walkman and the regular black one. So which one of these two Walkmans do you think the participants took home? Well, you've probably guessed it. All of them took the black model home. And this illustrates very well what's been going on in customer research for quite some years already. And this is just an example, but there have been many studies around this topic because, knowing this, why do we still ask customers what they think? Because saying you're considering to buy something isn't the same as actually buying something. So if we want to know why customers are acting the way they do and why they're showing certain behavior, we shouldn't be asking them simply because their answers aren't a representation of their actual behavior. And the reason for this is well supported by scientific research, for example, from Gerald Saltman, which showed that more than 95% of our purchasing decisions are made by our subconscious. Decision-making takes place subconsciously. And Gerald Saltman's research also showed that what humans really think or really feel often contradicts with what they say, simply because humans aren't aware of the decision-making processes that are taking place within their subconscious brain. So this is the part of our brains which we aren't aware of and can't control. Within that subconscious part of our brain, also our emotional center is placed. We are driven there by our subconsciousness. We are driven by our emotions when we're making decisions. So, for example, when we're buying products online. So asking customers what they would do will not predict their actual behavior because we're not looking at the subconscious experience and not looking at their emotions. So now that we know that emotions are in charge when we or our customers are making decisions, why is it so important that we should act upon this? Well, emotionally connected customers are twice as valuable as highly satisfied customers. And this insight came from the New Science of Customer Emotion study, as shown in Harvard Business Review. And that study showed that emotionally connected customers do not only spend more money per purchase, but also come back more frequent, so resulting in higher loyalty, are easier influenced by your marketing communications, so your efficiency goes up, and they will talk more positively about your brand to others, resulting in a higher NPS score. So customer decisions are influenced by emotions, and when they are emotionally connected in a positive way to your brand or your product, they outperform other types of customers. But why should we now all of a sudden be aware of this? You might wonder, because this information and scientific research isn't particularly new. Well, as you might know, competitor differentiation these days isn't about functionality anymore. Not only technology has changed throughout the last years, but also your customer has changed. So common products today were once major innovations, and they were introduced by baby boomers who created the technology. Then Generation X came and transformed these technologies into more functional, user-friendly technologies. And these generations were part of a revolution, for example, in portable music, the internet, and computers. But now we have the millennials, and they are here. And because they already had the technology from the baby boomers, and the enhanced functionality as created by Generation X, there's only one thing that can really make a difference for the millennials. They want an experience, and experiences are about emotions. Well, and that's not all, because if we're looking at generations and their buying behavior, we should also be looking at Generation Z, because Generation Z is here and they believe in and rely on cool brands to shape their world. And studies show that Generation Z are emotional buyers, and it makes sense, right? If you ask yourself, because when everything is out there already, the technology is here, it's user-friendly, it's working, the emotional connection with a brand or a product is becoming the key differentiator. And this is your future customer as well. So because Generation Z is said to be more than 40% of the population who are currently buying products online. So Generation Z is actually putting their money where their hearts are, how they feel about a brand or a product, how they are emotionally responding to your brand or your product. So we know now that 95% of or more than over 95% of our decision making takes place subconsciously, that we know that emotionally connected customers are more valuable than satisfied customers. And we know that our current and future customer is highly influenced by how a brand or product makes them feel, or better said, what it does to their emotions. So knowing the impact of emotions on decision making in your online environment, for example, when your customers are buying on your website, we should then check whether our data analytics are covering emotions, because we already saw by just asking our customers, as we saw through the story of Sony, we won't get the real answer. So we have to see, are we covering emotion within data analytics? Are data analytics measuring emotions already? Well, data analytics isn't about emotions. It doesn't provide insight into the why of behavior. It does show where your users are dropping out. It shows your conversion rate. It shows what your users are doing, but it doesn't show why they performed the behavior they did or what they were feeling at that moment. It also doesn't show whether the problem is on that particular page where your visitor dropped off, or it already was initiated a few pages before that point. So, and although we have these days great technologies already used for quantitative data, qualitative data, we want to gain more insight into the subconscious brain, into the real emotions of your customers in order to understand why they behave the way they are doing. So that makes us question how to measure emotions then, because apparently we need these to get insight into their emotion experience to really see what they are doing. So let's talk about the future of customer data. Measure emotions with neurotechnology. Neurotechnology makes it possible to look at your customer data from a different perspective by measuring the emotional experience directly from the subconscious brain and gaining insight into the why of online customer behavior. So by doing neurousability research, it's a qualitative way of measuring emotions through neuro research, and it differs from regular usability research because it incorporates neuroscience and artificial intelligence. So let me show you how this is set up. So for example, behavior tracking. We use mouse tracking, click tracking, touch tracking to measure online behavior. And these tools, there are already quite some tools who facilitate this, so and are widely used within companies. But that's only one thing. We also use eye tracking to see where the users are looking at on their screen, to see whether they are missing out on information, not seeing their information. Also, this technology was already here, but it's not in the combination as strongly as it is over here. So we have viewing behavior next to behavior tracking. So two types of behavior. But then the most important part comes where we can measure the real emotion. We measure the emotional experience, so the emotions of the users through EEG. And EEG measures the electric activity that's going on in the brain because of the neurons that are firing within the brain. And the combination of neuroscience and artificial intelligence makes it possible for us to see which emotions are getting triggered through the interaction within the digital environment, your website, for example. So what differs here from regular user testing is that a participant performs a task in complete silence. So there's no interruption from a researcher, no thinking aloud principles are being used because these all appeal to your conscious mind. And we want to have data from the subconscious emotional mind. So therefore, the test situation resembles as much as possible a real life setting to really understand what's the emotional experience of the users is. After a participant has completed the task, we gather feedback on the significant emotion points in his or her emotional experience. So in this way, we enrich the subconscious data with conscious feedback from the participant in the most objective way possible. So this is a qualitative, objective way of doing neuro research through use of neuroscience and artificial intelligence. 10 participants per research are being used, and I will show you an example of what this looks like. We've conducted a test for Nike on their website, and we let participants go to the website and choose a model of shoe which they preferred and customize it because Nike offers that possibility. And they had to do this based on their own preferences. And when they would be done with it, they could start purchasing the actual shoe. And what you're looking at here is the screen recording of one of those participants. So as I was saying, we see the behavior tracking. So we see the mouse tracking. We see what the participant is doing. Secondly, we also see the eye tracking, which are the red dots, which are moving within the screen recording. So we see where the user is looking. So the eye tracking behavior. And down below, which is the most important part, we see 3 emotion lines which represent the emotional experience of the user throughout the flow. And on the right-hand side down below, you'll see the 3 emotions that we measure. And there are 3 lines with 3 separate colors. So first of all, we have the emotion frustration that we measure. And frustration is directly related to conversion loss because it's related to not being able to reach the goal of the user. So every time a user feels that is getting a sort of bottleneck or obstruction within the user flow, we see frustration going up. So this is the subconscious frustration that is going on. So it's a really good indicator for how to make sure that you're keeping your customers on your website and how to see how we can facilitate that user experience. Then the second emotion is joy. And joy, as the word is already saying, is a positive emotion because we not only want to see what are the issues within the subconscious issues experienced within our web flow, but we also want to see what is going well, what helps the customer, the viewer, the user reach their goals. So that's what joy represents. And then the third emotion that we are measuring is attention, which is not really a negative or a positive emotion, but very much related to the amount of cognitive activity that's needed in order to finish the task, to understand what you're doing, to understand where you're going. So those are the 3 emotions. And as I explained, we also gather the neurofeedback after the session because the session is conducted in complete silence. So after the session, we watch the recording with the participant, him or herself, and then we ask on the significant emotion points, which are illustrated with the bullets on the emotion lines. We ask the participants, can you explain what you were experiencing here? And that neurofeedback, you see that on the right-hand side, on the upper side. And it gives us a little bit more information about what the user was experiencing on that point. So a really objective way of integrating the feedback of the user in combination with the subconscious emotional measurement. So in this case, for example, there was a peak in attention, and we saw that afterwards the participant explained it. I was taken back to this page and I wanted to find out how to continue customizing. My design was still visible, but I had to enter my shoe size again. So a little bit more focus was needed in order to continue with his task. So that's a little bit of information about what this looks like and how it works. If you prefer more information, please visit our booth. So we've seen that emotions matter when it comes to your customer data, and make sure you unlock the future of your customer data with neurotechnology. Understand customer behavior on a next level through emotion analytics, and increase your performances on your website within your webflow. And remember, ratio wins mind, but emotions appeal to the heart. And that's where the real magic lies for your business. Thank you for joining us today. Feel free to visit our Braingineers booth.